You're watching BCTV. We're all about Branford. You're watching BCTV, Branford Government Television, a service of Branford Community Television. This program is brought to you in part through the support of the town of Branford.
Okay, it's 5:40 this Monday, May 9th, 2022. I want to call this Board of Police Commissioners meeting to order. Can we get an approval of the minutes of the
attendance.
Monday, April 11th?
Do you want attendance?
Well, we
Jill's not here?
can see everybody who's here.
Does she know that? Are you taking the minutes? Or
Oh, no.
No,
she's
no.
Trista was unable to, at the last minute, to make it, so she won't be with us tonight, but we can take care of the minutes.
So Jill is she's the only one that's absent.
Right, okay. I do want to mention that our chairwoman, Jill Demarcus, is not here tonight, and we send our regards and our condolences to her and her family. She lost her husband, Ed, and we send our condolences from the board and wish them well. Approval of the minutes?
Motion to approve the minutes. I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Report of the chief.
All right, good evening, and I also would like to send our condolences to the Demarcus family. Ed was certainly a well-known figure in Branford, and our thoughts are with her as she moves through the grieving process. Along those lines, I would be remiss to send our sympathies to the family of the victims of the fatal car accident on Hosley Avenue. We've assigned an investigator to work with the families. They have a liaison, but they're in our thoughts and prayers, and that'll be a detailed investigation, and that won't be publicly released for quite some time, but they are working on it. Very hard for everyone involved, but they are definitely in our thoughts and our prayers as they move forward.
May I just make a comment on that? I'll speak in behalf, I hope, of the police commission. Our thanks for the hard work that's been done in the last horrible few days on this crash, and handling the death notifications and handling the families, and to the officers specifically. So, because I don't know who they are, I would ask you to extend our thanks and appreciation.
We will, and it's obviously that the families are our priority during those times, and we do everything we can, but there's only so much we can do. But there is an impact on the agency and the officers. It was very, very solemn around here, and we do work forward to get as much information for the families as we can, and we're going to do our best to do that. So I do appreciate that, and I will extend that to them.
Thank you.
Moving on in the monthly statistical report, as you see, Dominique, our crime analyst, she's kind of put it in a little bit of different format, same type of information. Some of the things that'll jump out at you that we've been talking about, I'll just highlight them real quick, are theft of motor vehicle parts or accessories. You'll see that's in the second column on the first page. The second section, 1,000% increase. A little of that is due to some of our cleaning up of some of the coding. This is all basically catalytic converter thefts. It's a statewide national problem right now. So you're going to see those numbers. Those are pretty significant numbers. But a little of it is us going back and looking at other cases that may have been coded out with a theft from vehicle versus a theft of motor vehicle parts. So that's a little high. Unfortunately, our mental health calls continue to increase. We're still on a trend. And our family dispute or our domestics are down. But what is concerning is our family domestic disputes with violence have increased, and they've increased substantially. So we're seeing the mental health, we're seeing the domestic violence in those areas, as well as our drug overdoses. And these are all types of things that we've seen coming out of the pandemic, but again, this is where our focus is. This is what we're honing in on, and this is what our officers are dealing with. So when we look at the domestic violence calls, those are very labor-intensive calls. A lot of officers are on those calls, upwards of 2 officers and a supervisor, and our protocols that are in place. So their efforts are not unnoticed, but these are areas we're looking at. And we brought Danielle in as our social worker, and we would hope to see these numbers trend down, but they're not. That they're trending up. So keep an eye on that. Our accidents are pretty stable, down a little bit. We should see an increase in traffic as we go into the warmer months in the summer season here on the shore. And as far as the asset forfeiture report, nothing new, no deposits to speak of. And I just have a couple other issues I want to get on. Bear with me. So as far as personnel, just to give you a couple of updates of where we stand in staffing, and we have Sergeant Carney is on light duty. We have Sergeant Mike O'Connor is on long-term sick leave, and we have Amanda Gonzalez, who's on light duty also. The reason why I highlight this is Sergeant Carney and Mike O'Connor are sergeants, and that's going to create a void in our sergeant's rank. So as we move into the next couple months, we do have a promotional list that we're working on. They're studying now, and in the next couple weeks they will take the necessary tests. And if we do have an opening, we'll look at it at this point. But right now, we have a little shortage. We're filling it with overtime, but they're covering it with the other sergeants, and some of the lieutenants are taking some overtime. So as far as service goes, we're not having any issues. It's just something that I wanted the commission to be aware of. Specifically, overtime has been doing good. We're trending well with that, but another thing that'll drive a little spike in our overtime. Also, and speaking along the lines of what the commissioner was talking about, what some of the officers experience and what we deal with, our employee assistance provider has basically sold a part of that business, and they're no longer going to be our frontline employee assistance program. We've now are with a company called KGA for our officer wellness and employee assistance program. So far, the transition has been very well, been very good. They've retained one of our old EAP liaisons to stay on for about 6 months to assure that all the public safety clients are happy. And for us, what this means is just introducing some new faces. But what I think we're losing a little bit with some of the face-to-face contacts and knowing some of these people is we're gaining with other services that we didn't have before. So they're getting elder care. So if you have a loved one that needs elder care, that can be very stressful for somebody. They have resources that are covered under our plan. Legal advice. If they in need of legal advice, non-employment related, but for family issues, there's a block of time that they can utilize legal services with an attorney under this EAP. Child care issues, getting child care, a whole host of litany of services that we didn't have before. So we're going to give it a try, but I think it's important to bring up because we really need to keep tabs on our officers and make sure everyone's wellness, mental health is really what we're concerned about. So we're going to give it a try. They came and they met with our supervisors, so that's something that we're transitioning out. Also, I want to bring to you, a few weeks ago, if you saw in the news, there was a hostage situation in the town of Guilford. Our South Central Regional SWAT team, along with our hostage negotiators and crisis negotiators, and some of our support staff here from the building, a lot of our personnel went and helped. A great team effort by all the departments that were there, and a very long standoff with the subject, and it came to a successful resolution. Our team had to take a stand back because they were there for about 17 hours, and you can't operate under those conditions. So the state police came in, and shortly thereafter, it was resolved, and she is doing well and unharmed at this point. But out of that, we work closely, the regional team, the training you see, the SWAT team, the negotiators, a lot of our people here were there for almost 24 hours. So, we want to thank them for their efforts, and that is a very high risk, as you know. That's a very tough crisis to deal with, but from the command level down, it was done very well. Our hats off to Chief Hyatt and Deputy Chief Massey in Guilford, utmost professionals, and I think it speaks volumes of how it resolved, thankfully. Along that lines, one of the things that I want to bring forth to the commission to put on our long-term planning, and something that we need to consider, is as we look at our resources, one thing that I think that we need to consider is what they call a command post. It basically is just a large vehicle that allows us to operate in inclement weather with all the technology and literally the conference table or the office space that we need. This was highlighted again in Guilford. They do have one. It's smaller, and our tactical team and the negotiators use that. And we've had other high-profile, labor-intensive crisis situations like the Main Street shooting, where a vehicle like this would really help our operation. We've looked at these in the past on a regional basis. Unfortunately, some of the federal money that does come through and comes to the state really doesn't lend itself well to it, because it's divvied up to different functions, what they call emergency support functions. And then it's done on a regional basis, so it would be available to, say, 28 different communities. I think at that point it becomes a little hard to manage it. Mm-hmm. They have a heavy price tag. They run anywhere from what we would need is about $300,000.
Wow.
To $350,000. It would be beneficial to both public safety operation in Branford for the fire department and for us, and specifically too for our investigators. Unfortunately, a lot of the scenes that they go to, the homicide, it's in a business parking lot. They have to prepare documents, they have to log evidence. We've had other scenes that it's been 0 degrees out, the wind's blowing. So something like this would be something that would allow us to operate in those conditions. And also, we have a lot of events. We have the Branford Road Race, we have the fireworks, we have the Christmas parade, where we have a lot of officers working, and the officer in charge could utilize this for communications and be out of inclement weather also.
Can forfeiture money be used?
It can. It far exceeds our budget. And yes, we can look at going down a little bit in the price scale, but then you get something that's just too small, and you kind of always regret, well, why didn't we get what we needed in the first place and do it right the first time? So it's something that I wanted to bring to the commission that we can talk about. I'd like to look at maybe getting a committee from some of the officers in the department, and there's certain officers that are involved with our regional teams that we've all worked together and we've been on. Unfortunately, this group has had some of the worst crises in New Haven County over the past couple of years. So we know what works, we know what we need, but I'd like to even maybe reach out to some of those that have been involved. Hey, what did we need? We'd have someone from IT assist us, because the IT demand is one of the things that we really need. Because during the crisis, we find that our cellular service lags, our internet service will get shut down, because if people are posting videos, they're taking up the bandwidth. So sometimes our communications gets hampered, so we have to have redundancy in our systems with different carriers and different mobile hotspots. So if it's something that the commission looks favorably on, I can start that process going and get some people in to do that. I also would look at spending a big chunk of that asset forfeiture money, say $100,000, right to that, and then maybe looking at, there's the ARPA money that's coming up. It's a pretty big capital ask, so I'd have to put it in our 5-year. But
5 years?
I mean our 5-year capital plan. Just basically.
I mean, you need it today. So what about a federal grant for this? Because there was a point where departments were getting these with federal money, federal grants.
Yeah, they were like community outreach vehicles.
Yeah.
They weren't really, the ones that I saw, they weren't really this size. They were more like a Sprinter van that they retrofitted to fit for community outreach and recruitment.
Right now, everybody's all hot on, we're not going to defund the police, we want to help the police.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of federal money, would it be worth, I don't know if you're interested in this, is there a grant writer here?
Yeah, you're looking at them.
Oh, you're good, okay.
Us too.
We'll figure it out.
Well, no, but so then my next thought was to meet with Rosa to find out if there is a pot of money we can apply for. I'm happy to do that.
That's a possibility. The Homeland Security money, I know, like I said, what we get allocated to our region, it would capture all that money, but then we would be, we'd be liable for all the other departments that are in our region. Because it's a regional asset and we would take ownership of it.
Okay.
So, we used to have, and they still do, East Haven, Hamden, and East Haven, Hamden, North Haven shared a vehicle like this.
that.
Many, through actually, I think it was a grant through MAD or
We assisted with
back
yeah.
in the 90s.
But that was difficult when you share. I get that.
It works out, and we would have no problem. Again, we work very closely with 6 towns. 6 towns make up our traffic team. They make up our SWAT team. What am I missing, John? Shoreline Technical. There's a few of them in there. So we have a core group. Guilford brings their command post. They'll bring it to North Haven. They brought it to Branford for us, but it's a little smaller. And during these tactical operations and the larger scale incidents, it's occupied by either the negotiators or the tactical people, and then it leaves the bosses, the command bosses, kind of outside. So we need a bigger one. And I think what the amount of events we have alone in Branford, and the goal is to have this vehicle set up so that police and fire operations could continue to be dispatched even if we weren't in this building. So
I don't think it's even, I'll speak for myself, I don't think it's even an issue that
I agree.
it's something that Branford needs. I think the question is, the other piece is there funding that if you needed match money? I don't know if you do, do you have match money here or, I don't know. Or could you use the forfeiture money as match?
Most likely, where it gets a little bit difficult with some of the asset forfeiture money is who's using this vehicle, but it would be ours, so that shouldn't be a problem. Commingling the money with other departments sometimes is permissible. There's guidelines, but that's something we can certainly put on. So I think we look at speccing and scoping the vehicle.
To see how much it really costs.
Well, the 2 main players there's two main manufacturers, and with the supply chain issues and cost increases, what they started to do was they've had so many clients, they've taken the best designs that they feel, and they've just produced certain models that are available. If we were to go to spec and say we had the money and we wanted to do this, it would probably be about a year and a half wait, I would assume a year wait at least. But now they're making, when I said IT, okay, what do we need in it? What systems do we need? They've already run the wiring. They've already done all that. So there are some that are available, but I think we look at the funding source also. That I did not put a request in on the first round of the ARPA money. At the time, I didn't see it necessary, but as we move forward, this has been something that we've been discussing back and forth, and we do realize it's a big ticket item. I'd like to see the fire department partner with us, but I understand the money comes out of the same pot anyways.
I personally don't think it's a big ticket item. I think it's something that's a necessity.
Chief, what's your proposal in terms of getting back to us on this? You're gonna
Well, if it's something that the board feels like they would support, then what I would do is I would assign someone to reach out to the manufacturers and confirm the pricing and that it meets our specs of what we want. Consult with IT and see what the budget they would need to add. The technology's gotten better, so some of the mobile hotspots and stuff, that's not costly. And then we would have to, the third part would be searching for the funding. Again, my recommendation is that we would take, I'd be comfortable with $100,000 right off the asset forfeiture. I don't anticipate a lot of money coming in the future in asset forfeiture, but that would still leave us enough that
we're at 180 now.
We're like 212, I think.
212 now, okay.
Somewhere in there. But I don't anticipate significant money coming in like you used to see. The courts have changed a little bit. There's a different focus. So we're not seeing the money on the state side, and we're not seeing as much coming on the federal side. So it's not we can't keep going back to the bank every time there.
All right. So is it fair enough for us to say, go ahead and take a look at it and just come back to us?
Yeah, we'll
go from there.
report back.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. And the only other thing I have some correspondence. I know that if the chair was here, she would say that we've never got a bad letter, but that's not true. But these are all very...
Do we get to see the bad letters?
We do.
We do.
We do.
I just haven't seen one since I've been on. Okay.
Well, I can tell you that I have not gotten a bad one since you've been on.
Great.
But then again, so I have one for Dominic Eula. He's the lieutenant in our detective bureau. And this one came in from a family member of a very difficult case. A family member had taken their life, and Detective Lieutenant Eula and the other detectives met with the family, and they went over the case, and they just wanted to say thank you and the compassion and the sense of closure that it provided. So again, a tough situation that we did the best we could and helped the family. Sergeant Carney brings the dog down pretty much every year now. She's been going down to the University of New Haven and meeting with the students down there, doing a canine demonstration. And Danny Maxwell from UNH reached out, just wanted to thank us for the continued support and her time and efforts. And this one, we received a call. There was a motorist, an 86-year-old female. She was on her way to church with her 88-year-old sister. They got a flat tire, and there was not a tow truck available, and Officer Cope stayed with them and gave them assistance for quite some time, and they just wanted to call and say thank you for the officers' attention to their tough morning. And Officer Mike Loftus, I received a letter from a crime victim. Their home was burglarized and stolen, and they just wanted to say how empathetic and thorough and how much he put into their case and how much of a credit he is to the department. He was able to secure an arrest in that case, and they wanted to thank us for that. So they wanted to commend Officer Mike Loftus for his effort. And, you know, as we talked about the Special Olympics, Officer Hurton and Detective Hurton and Officer Harrington, their efforts, we were the top fundraiser for Special Olympics, and this was a parent of a Special Olympian who wanted to write and say thank you for all their efforts, and that it really does make a difference to them. So again, hats off to them for just continued great job. High achievers, they set the bar very high. I don't know how they're gonna do it again, but we'll
Cross that bridge.
keep going, so. And Deputy, you have anything you want to add?
No, I don't have anything.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Okay, I'd like to talk about the traffic committee now.
Okay.
Okay.
You met earlier this evening. The first item on the agenda was a request for crosswalks along Indian Neck. The committee recommends that it had been approved for Tool Drive. Recommends no action at this time because it requires funding.
Right, well, let's just clarify that further. In other words, it's already in the system, it's ready to go, and we're just waiting for the town to fund it.
Right. Second item, request for a stop sign in Featherbed. This is not a new issue. It is something that has come to the traffic committee at least 2 times prior. There's a citizen concerned about the speed, specifically the dump trucks that go up and down. So the committee recommends that Lieutenant Ramey will get in contact with the construction company and talk to them about reducing their speed. There is no action on the stop sign. Okay. The last request was for signage and traffic calming measured on Hosley Avenue. This is the site of that horrible accident earlier this month. We're recommending the process of a study be done, an independent study regarding the volume of traffic and use on that specific road, and looking at it from a town-wide perspective and not just a neighborhood perspective. And the committee recommends that take place. Other than that, there's no other items for this month.
Great. All right, I have no report of the chair. Any citizens' comments? I don't see any.
I actually have a couple questions. I was wondering, who is the investigator on the death of from the accident?
Sergeant Christopher Romanella.
Romanella,
He's the
okay.
investigator.
Because I stopped by a week ago and I haven't got a call back on that. And then, as far as the letters that people send in, like the positive, because I actually like to reshare stuff like that on social media, because I'm trying to turn that into a type of journalism, to give positive, a positive influence on social media for cops, because I feel like that doesn't always happen. I do this thing called Hot Cop Season. I don't know if you've heard of it, but I've gotten the other towns to do it. Did you ever think of sharing the letters in meetings other than this, so that people?
Could I just ask you to identify yourself, please?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Ashley Fun. I was a resident in Branford. I'm now a senior at Fairfield U. I used to be a journalist. I used to write for The Sound. And I am trying to marry my old journalism skills with the younger generation of social media, which you can't beat them. I don't like saying that, but I mean, it's kind of. So can you share those letters that people write?
Sure, we do.
Yeah,
I mean, this
okay.
is typically the forum where they're shared, but I'd be glad to share them with you
Yeah.
if you'd like to see them.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Well, this meeting is also televised, so
Yeah,
Right.
the letters get out. And that,
oftentimes, again, a lot of them deal with,
That's true.
tragedies and issues that the families have experienced. So sometimes, some of them are they're heartfelt
Okay.
towards the officer, and if you here when I say there was a resident who suffered a loss or a suicide in the family. I don't necessarily identify them.
Okay.
But we can release the letters, but with those type of letters, I'd probably reach out back to the victim, because
Right.
some of them are very detailed, specific to the officer, but they're public documents.
They are, okay.
Yep.
And that's it, thank you.
That's it.
All right, thank you. All right,
Right.
may I have a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
This program was brought to you in part through the support of the Town of Brantford. Watch town meetings and other videos on demand at BrantfordTV.org.